Part 20. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 191. Guyao's blind trick made the few monks who were not in the chi refining stage lose their goals, and even forgot what they were doing. How would they know? And they really met the right person by mistake, but it's a pity, Guyao and the others did not want to be disturbed. The farther away from the center of Tianlin continent, the less relevant news that can be heard, and often travel a large area, it is difficult to meet a few people with cultivation base. The last useful news they get is that Tianfa collagen agreement was reached with various forces, and those forces left the academy one after another. Hu Guzu was also sent out of the academy by President Yu himself, watching him get on the flying instrument and leave. The further south you go, the more desolate the place becomes. In the end, ordinary people have no way to survive here, so occasionally I meet a few figures, and there are people with cultivation bases, otherwise there is no way to stay. The four of them abandoned the big flying instrument early, slowed down their speed, and gradually allowed their bodies to adapt to the environment here, until they entered the area called the Dead Man by the nearby monks. After entering the desert of death, except for Tianfirong, everyone else felt uncomfortable, even Qi Changjai was the same, because the spiritual energy here was too bad. Except for the fire that was filled with fire poison, the spiritual energy was very thin. It's not that he has enough pills to replenish spiritual power, even Qi Changjai can't survive here for long. These fire poisons are ineffective to Tianfirong. After all, he is a descendant of the inflamed body, and now Qinjian has grown more than the scattered fire poisons outside, and can even be used for it, so he is the most active one. Guyao wiped the sweat from his forehead, unwilling to waste his spiritual power on resisting the heat of the outside world. I haven't met a cultivator for a few days, right? Are we almost there? Qi Changjai took out the map, compared the way he had come, and said, it should be, but the map is useless after entering here. We have to find the old site ourselves. If Tianfirong can sense it, it will be easier. This is the reason why Tianfirong is called to go on the road together, otherwise, Qi Changjai thinks that he and Guyao will be faster on the road alone, not to mention that two people in this area will be inserted between him and Guyao. The two discussed it, and now Tianfirong has not practiced the practice of developing Qinjian, so it may not have a great effect here, but he has practiced the special practice of the Yan family. Then if anyone can find the old site of the Yan family, Tianfirong is the most likely one. When President Yu and them mentioned the former site of Yanyuan City before, they thought of Tianfirong, and they had to say that it was a kind of fate. Hearing this, Tianfirong scratched his head awkwardly. I don't feel anything. Guyao laughed. It's all right, take your time, the large area is here anyway, and we can always find clues by doing a carpet-like search every inch. The little fat man's crystal snake was sluggish, and it shrank on his wrist and didn't want to move. It was about to become a roasted snake. Let's go, Qi Changjai gave an order, and the four of them cheered up and walked in this desert, without people or trees. After the sun went down, the temperature dropped, and the four of them camped on the spot to rest and wait until the daytime before moving. Except for Tianfirong, Guyao and the other three, including Crystal Snake, had taken the elixir to remove the fire poison, and the black cat got used to it quite well. After setting up the tent, Guyao sprinkled medicinal powder around the tent. There were no crops growing on the desert, but there were countless lives, poisonous insects and poisonous plants hidden under the yellow sand. When they come out for activities, the night becomes their world. After setting up the formation again, the four of them sat down and ate some spirit fruit and made a cup of spirit tea to replenish the water consumed during the day. Brother Qi, go and rest, I'll watch the night. I can practice while watching the night, Tianfirong said after drinking tea. Qi Changjai did not refuse. There is a movement warning. The four of them set up two tents, of course, two by one. Qi Changjai and Guyao entered their tents, and there was a spirit gathering array inside. is also a kind of cultivation. Chi Chang'ai released his own purple thunder sword, and the purple thunder sword is now more spiritual than before, happily swimming around the two of them. Guyao observed it and said curiously, "Brother Ye, the purple thunder sword can also be absorbed here. Are you angry?" Chi Chang'ai nodded. "Thanks to the purple thunder sound bamboo you brought out from the secret realm, after it was integrated into the sword, the quality of the purple thunder sword has improved a lot. Otherwise, the fight against Yan Yuanjing this time will not be so easy." Although his swordsmanship has improved a lot with the help of the sword pavilion, the improvement of the quality of the purple thunder sword also has a great auxiliary effect. Before he was ready to form the elixir, he touched the purple thunder sound bamboo into the sword, and then went through the tempering of thunder tribulation. Even if he is not a tool master, the quality of the purple thunder sword after being tempered by the thunder tribulation has also leaped. It can be said that it has reached the peak of the spiritual tool, and if it goes further, it will break through the scope of the spiritual tool. Although the purple thunder sword is of high quality, it can play a great role in Chi Chang'ai's hands. It also has a great advantage. Now this purple thunder sword is Chi Chang'ai's life sword, and it is difficult for others to take it. Half the power, so it's not much use to steal it. That's still Brother Ye's swordsmanship. If you change it, you can't do it to the level of Brother Ye. Guyao firmly believed that Zi Lei Yinzu was just an auxiliary role, and it should fall into Chi Chang'ai's hands. Make the most of the purple thunder sound bamboo. Being looked at by such trusting eyes, Chi Chang'ai felt that he could not let Guyao down no matter what. He would definitely find a way out, and he would definitely be able to break the pattern of Lin continent today. Chi Chang'ai was about to say something, but Guyao said again, "I still hurry up and race against time to practice. I have to try my best to catch up with Brother Ye." After saying that, I threw myself into practice. I extracted the spiritual energy from the spirit gathering array and transported it in my body. In any case, it would not be his turn. Unless there was an emergency, his task at night was to cultivate. Chi Chang'ai had to look at the cat cub beside him, and found that the little guy had a strange look. He stretched out his hand and flipped it to the ground, reluctant to make it difficult for Xiaoao to deal with this little guy. The emergence of poisonous insects and alien plants at night was solved by Tianfirong, who was vigilant at night. Chi Chang'ai only released his consciousness to watch when he heard the movement, and did not help. This kind of battle helped Tianfirong to make better progress, and the environment here it is suitable for him to shoot. Maybe he often uses Qingjian to achieve unexpected results. After wandering in this desert for several days, they found nothing, but they found another monk on the way. The four did not show up, but Chi Chang'ai and Guyao used their spiritual sense to probe their situation. After staring for a while, Guyao looked at Tianfirong with a strange expression, and said, "Those guys are actually here for the strange fire," saying that there is a strange fire hidden in this desert, and it is because of the strange fire that the environment here is like this. Bad. Tianfirong frowned and said, "I didn't notice the aura of green flames. Maybe some guys who have heard of Yanyuan City's deeds just thought it up." Guyao nodded and said, "It's possible. I left Silk Spirit to follow them. I'll know if they make any move." Although it is said that the people who come in are dying, there are always some people who don't give up, thinking that others are not destined. Maybe they are the lucky guy, so they don't give up and step into this desert of death. After half a day, Guyao suddenly raised his brows and said that those guys seem to be in trouble. "Wait, they are coming towards us, should we avoid them?" "Okay, avoid it," Chi Chang'ai replied. The four of them quickly hid their bodies and completely restrained their breath. After a long time, there was a rustling sound, which made people's scalp tingle. From a distance, it looks like yellow sand is flying all over the sky, but if you look closely, you can see that the flying yellow sand is densely covered with countless insects, and the black twisting things are alien plants hidden under the yellow sand. One monk ran away desperately, and another was screaming for help. hoping that another group of monks would appear here and save their lives. Guyao was struck dumb. There were 7 people, but the other 3 are gone? So soon. As soon as the words were finished, a shrill scream sounded, and they saw one of the cultivators tripped and was drowned by the yellow sand behind them. After that, the corpse even had a lot of bones gnawed away, but there were still many bugs gnawing on the remaining bones. The little fat man took a deep breath. This was too bad. He swallowed dryly and said, "That person stumbled suddenly. Someone deliberately designed it? Otherwise, how could his figure suddenly stagnate for a moment, and that moment was enough to make him lose his life, even if it was impossible for him to escape in the first place?" Chi Changjai pointed to one of the cultivators and said, "It was that person's hand," and he shot out a spiritual force that just fell on that person's feet. Although the movements were made secret, they were still discovered by Chi Changjai and Guyao. After all, it was easy to reveal themselves during the escape process, but the other 2 didn't notice them at all, so there was no time to look back. None of the 4 of them came to rescue, not to mention Chi Changjai said that the dead monk was killed by the design of his companions, so he watched them roaring in front of them, and one of the bugs was actually in front of them. After turning around a few times, but in the end, the flesh and blood in front of them attracted them more, so they left again, but Tian Firong's face showed a look of shock. When the insect wave passed and the invisibility restriction was lifted, Tian Firong said anxiously and excitedly, "I felt a little green flame on them just now, and it was very weak. If they hadn't stopped, I might not have noticed it." Arrive. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 192. The news Tian Firong said gave everyone a surprise, and after many days of searching, the group of worms will finally fall. Chi Changjai immediately said, "Follow up, find their nest through those worms." The breath of green flames on their bodies is most likely related to the location of their lair, rather than accidental encounters. If they encountered them by accident, how could these insects escape the power of green flames? It could only be their lair is exactly where the blue flames penetrate. The 4 of them followed involuntarily and covered their breath. These insects and alien plants rely on spiritual energy to catch food. The 4 of them clearly saw that among the remaining 3 people in front, the one who managed to escape in the end, the other 2 ended up in the same situation, being gnawed by insects and xenographs, and the one who managed to escape, it was the guy who secretly attacked his companion before. Seeing that guy used a talisman and disappeared without a trace, Tian Firong and Little Fatty were secretly vigilant. If they ran into this person again, they would not be merciful. After losing their prey, the insect wave lingered in place and killed each other for a while, and gradually began to recede. It turned out that when they were mixed together, Tian Firong still felt a little confused. For a while, he could not tell which bugs were, but after dispersing, he could immediately tell that it was a group of bugs with dark red shells and some fire attributes, but this kind of bugs. Attribute bugs are very common in the Desert of Death, but perhaps due to the power of blue flames, they are obviously slightly stronger than the same group of bugs. The group of bugs finally disappeared under a piece of yellow sand, and the little fat man made the earth escape and took Guyao and the others into the bottom of the yellow sand. It didn't take long for Tian Firong to feel the breath of Qingjian again, and instructed the little fat man to sneak direction until it reaches an underground lava place. If it weren't for the group of bugs leading the way, it would be difficult to find here, and the eyes were filled with red and hot magma, which made people never imagine that it would have anything to do with the old site of Yanyuan City. The nest of the previous group of bugs was located at the outermost periphery of this place. The further inward, the stricter the level, and the stronger the strength of bugs, alien plants, and even fire-type monsters. The 4 of them didn't come to find these worms and monsters to fight, but to find the entrance to the old site, so Chi Changjai directly released the pressure of Jindan cultivation. After letting out the road leading to the depths of the magma, Tianfirong came here like a fish into the sea. If you open your spiritual eyes, you can see many fiery red light spots falling on him, which are automatically absorbed by his body. Cultivating here can definitely achieve twice the result with half the effort, and the strength will grow rapidly. In the end, there appeared on their road a monster with a great foundation, a fire toad covered in knots, thinking that they could stop the intruding cultivator with the advantage of the environment. It is also really good. The tongue that it spit out has dark red mucus, which is highly corrosive with fire poison. When it wants to roll up Guyao, who is walking by Chi Changjai's side, Chi Changjai waved his hand and hit him. On the wall next to it, a hole is directly corroded. Wherever the slime drops, it is a pit. Go! Chi Changjai's tongue burst into thunder, and the thunderous screech directly impacted Fire Toad's soul. With a shock, the latter turned around and ran, jumping into the hot rock paddle that kept churning bubbles. The little fat man carefully stood beside the rock, and felt that he could be cooked directly here. After the crystal snake came in, he couldn't stand the environment here, so he took the initiative to ask to be put into the spirit beast bag, and the fire toad could swim in the lava. But he didn't dare to underestimate the temperature here, and he threw a stone in, and it melted completely in the blink of an eye. He had a choice in rubbing his neck, feeling that if he fell in, he would end up with the stone, and looked at Tianfirong suspiciously. You won't say, the entrance is under this magma, right? Tianfirong was very comfortable, although the scene just now made his scalp a little numb. He smiled maliciously. Why don't you stay here alone, and Brother Chi and the others will go to explore? That is to say, the entrance is really under this magma, and the little fat man feels a lot of blows. It is no wonder that no one has found the old site of Yanyuan City, because even if they found this place, who would jump into this magma without thinking and seek death? Woolen cloth. The little fat man said firmly, I will follow Brother Chi. Jumping in may not necessarily kill him, but if you stay on it alone, you will definitely not be able to escape a word of death. It is only by the coercion of Chi Changjai's golden core that a group of bulls, ghosts, snakes, and gods are suppressed. Once Chi Changjai leaves, things in all directions will kill him. Swallow clean. Go, you have to try, Chi Changjai said and pulled Guyao to jump down. Guyao didn't hesitate at all. Naturally, wherever he went, he followed him, and he didn't realize that there was nothing in his mentality. Not right. Of course, Tianfirong and the little fat man jumped down, and jumped into the protective cover supported by Chi Changjai's spiritual power. The Lei Lingli protective cover still had a certain blocking effect on the rocks outside, and Tianfirong came in immediately. After covering his own flames outside the protective cover, the temperature inside the protective cover suddenly dropped a lot, making the little fat man and Guyao, who almost felt like they were roasted to dryness, feel alive again. As soon as the four of them left the shore, a lot of things climbed out after a while, and the little fat man just looked back and immediately retracted his eyes. Sure enough, his decision was correct. If he stayed on it now, he would be quickly given by those guys. Nod. The blue-purple spiritual power ball slowly sank into the magma, and seemed to sense the terrifying aura of the flames. Tianfirong also sacrificed a spiritual tool, the Wanya pot, which he had collected in the Kankan secret realm, and controlled it to fly out of the shield, and suddenly the flame power was absorbed by the Wanya pot. Guyao was overjoyed when he saw it. This is the best place to make a Menya pot. Tianfirong also said happily, I just thought of it too, but I didn't expect it to be really useful. I think it's a little late to take it out. Brother Chi, here, the breath became stronger and stronger after entering, while pointing Chi Changjai in the direction of induction. With the Wanya pot absorbing the flame power from the magma, the pressure on Chi Changjai's front was greatly reduced. After an unknown period of time, a blue light suddenly appeared in front of him. Tianfirong was startled and said, that's the flame power of blue flame, a very pure blue flame. Yanli, Brother Chi, let's go over to see Chi Change-I and said in a deep voice, that place is pulling us over, and this suction is getting stronger and stronger. After I let go of the control, be careful with yourselves, Xiaoao hold me tight. Okay. As soon as Chi Change-I let go of the suction, Guyao and the others immediately felt the pulling force clearly, and they were dragged in before they could react. The reddish magma disappeared, stepping on the ground, surrounded by fire-based aura. This is another world entirely. Little Fatty and Guyao looked around in surprise, but they couldn't react. There were mountains and rivers all around, and monsters sticking out their heads in the forest to deal with the foreign guests. This place looks like an old site. It's clearly, is this a secret realm? The original Yan family actually owns such a secret block. If Yanyuan City hadn't been destroyed, then Tianfirong's identity would be very different. The real son of a great family with a strong background nodded Chi Change-I, then looked at Tianfirong. This place should be in a secret realm, it should only be inherited from Qing dynasty. Only those who have cultivated the Yan physique and cultivated the Yan can find the entrance and be dragged in by the entrance. Tianfirong's expression was also a little dazed. Maybe it is. It was as if he was originally a poor boy, but one day he suddenly found out that he was actually the son of the richest man. Guyao patted him, don't be stunned, since you're here, let's take a look and see what you find. Tianfirong took a deep breath and smiled, yes, maybe there are some good treasures in here, let's go, let's go. Tianfirong pointed in a direction, the four of them flew on their way. Guyao remembered the Shi family ancestral land that he had been to. That ancestral land needed the Shi family bloodline to be opened, and it should be a small secret realm, and the Qinjian body needs to be opened here. Rifts have the same effect. Thinking of the fate of the Shi family, Guyao felt that the sudden destruction of Yanyuan City at the beginning should not only be done by the forces secretly controlled by the city lord's mansion. It is very likely that the Changxianmen also sent cultivators to directly participate in this event. Slaughter, otherwise, it is impossible that almost no wind has been heard, and only the arrival of those monks from Changxianmen will have absolute strength to suppress the original Yan clan. Guyao said his thoughts. Chi Change-I was not surprised. Tianfirong clenched his fists when he heard it. He did not doubt this speculation. It was because he gradually mastered Qinjian that he knew the original Yan family. Absolutely not weak, but to make such a force disappear overnight, it is impossible for all parties on Tianlin continent to do it, only that foreign force. Damn Changxianmen. Along the way, Guyao discovered a lot of fire-type spirit grasses. Some of them are rare spirit grasses that are rarely seen outside. They can be refined to help fire-type monks grow their cultivation. However, it is important to explore this secret realm first. Let's talk about it later. After rushing for a while, I found that the place they landed in belonged to the periphery, and there were other attributes of aura on the periphery. The more they flew inward, the stronger the fire attribute aura, so the green gradually decreased, and finally only the red world was destroyed. Tianfirong, on the other hand, was absorbing these fire attribute auras recklessly, making the little fat man jealous. At the end of this training, this guy's cultivation will definitely rise a lot, and he will fall behind again. Guyao's main spiritual root is fire and wood, so the pure fire attribute aura here can also be absorbed and cultivated. After a while, they saw rows of buildings appearing in front of them, and it seemed that they could not see through because of the restriction surrounding them, so they decided to lower down to take a look. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 193. The outermost buildings are relatively simple, just simple houses made of special fire attribute stones. There are futons inside, and bookshelves and tables are placed in some rooms. The materials are all fire attribute stones. Reached a conclusion. The outside should be the training residence of the low-level monks. Because he left, he took away all the daily necessities of practice that had been left here. That is to say, the former Yan clan would regularly select the children of the clan to enter the secret realm. Practice there. Qi Changjai nodded. Ling Yunzong also has such a secret place for disciples to cultivate, so he glanced at such a place and understood where it was. The further inwards these buildings were, the stronger the spiritual energy, and the monks who would retreat and practice here. The strength is also stronger. Going inside, the humble stone house has developed into a courtyard-style building. The traces of life and practice here are much heavier. There is even a spiritual field in the courtyard, where some fire-type spirit grass grows, but because no one has been there for a long time. After taking care of it, some were deserted, and some were occupied by the domineering spirit grass, which multiplied, and the other spirit grass disappeared. However, some courtyards have restrictions, and some have formations in individual training rooms. In one of the courtyards, a fire tree grows, and the fire fruit on it is about to mature, which can increase the growth of fire attribute monks. The good things of cultivation, not only the little fat man is jealous, even Guyao is envious. All these good things have fallen into Tianfirong's stomach. Unless there is another Mukagyo, Guyao's dual attributes are not suitable for consumption. Such a fruit. Tianfirong scratched his head and went out to find a way out, but it turned out to be helping him improve his cultivation, feeling a little sorry for his friend. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. Guyao patted Tianfirong on the shoulder, told himself to keep his composure. Tianfirong laughed dryly and walked forward together. Although he was embarrassed, he was still looking forward to it, and the more he walked forward, the more energetic the Qingjian in his body seemed to be. Something attracted Qingjian. He felt this. He also said it, and the little fat man waved his hand, saying that he had nothing to say. Who made the Hu family not have a family secret? A huge palace appeared in front, which was completely different from those in the previous buildings. This palace looked much more solemn and solemn. The palace is guarded by 2 gates. Qi Changjai tried to push it, but even if he used the strength of Jindan, he could not push it. Qi Changjai took a few steps back and said to Tianfirong, "It seems that a special method may be needed to get in here, try it out." Tianfirong took a few steps forward, put his hands on the sturdy gate, and activated the azure flame power in his body. Guyao and the little fat man could clearly feel the response from the gate, absorbing the azure flame power, but this process continued. After a long time, when Tianfirong was about to be sucked dry, a whirlpool suddenly appeared on the door, and Tianfirong disappeared. This, he went in alone. The speed was too fast, and the little fat man reached out and tried to pull, but he couldn't hold it. Guyao and Qi Changjai checked again, tried several methods, shook their heads and said, "Let's go, it seems that only people with Yiyan physique can enter here." Didn't Brother Tian say that there is something that attracts him? It seems that it is in this palace and has nothing to do with us. Okay, let's go to other places. I should be able to gain something. The little fat man cheered up, and he can't go home empty-handed when he goes deep into Base Han. Although he can't use those fire-type materials very well, but take it out and trade it with others. So the 3 of them turned around again. This time it was no longer a hasty walk, but a search from courtyard to courtyard. Yu Qi couldn't let go of those who were banned by the formation, and they felt that there should be good things in them before they were banned. This search did find a lot of good things. Although the fire attribute spiritual power is active here, it is not as hot and dry as the outside, so the crystal snake can come out again and give full play to its treasure hunting function. Although they mainly focus on the good things that fire-type monks need, there are also other materials that other type monks can use, so the more Guyao and little fatty search, the happier they are. Tianfirong and Qi Changjai followed behind indulgently. After all the houses and courtyards here were searched, Tianfirong was still missing. So the three people who couldn't sit still continued to focus on this building and went outside to search. There were too many fire-type materials. The things that are a little bit worse are already unattractive, and I choose the good ones. Fortunately, I have a lot of storage bags on my body, otherwise I can't hold them. Of course, this secret realm can't be compared to the Kankan secret realm, so after a few days, they will go to all the places they can scrape, then turn back, find a courtyard to settle down temporarily, and set up a formation that isolates the outside world of fire attribute aura. Method: you can still practice in seclusion by using spiritual stones, and Guyao can use the spiritual energy here. So in the end, Guyao and Little Fatty both retreated and practiced, so they left Chi Changjai to guard outside. Before, they searched for some books and jade slips left by the Yan clan, which were just for him to read, most of which were related to cultivation. Yes, there are also records of what happened to the Yan clan and Yanyuan city. A month later, Chi Changjai, who was closing his eyes and breathing, suddenly opened his eyes, flew out of the room and flew into the air, looking at the palace surrounded by prohibitions in front of him, and at the same time transmitted a sound to Guyao and Fatty, asking them to wake up from meditation, because they may not be able to practice meditation next time. The two of them were wondering why Chi Changjai woke them up. Before they came out, they felt the aura around them fluctuate violently. They quickly came out to join Chi Changjai. The sight before them shocked them. It turned out that the solemn palace had actually turned blue, and there were terrifying flames inside. The little fat man exclaimed, "Brother Chi, what's going on inside? Is Tianfirong okay?" Chi Changjai looked at the palace in front of him with his hands behind his back, and said that there should be a legacy left by the predecessors in this palace, which may be the green flames stripped from the body and left for future generations to help them break through. It should not be harmful to future generations. As soon as Chi Changjai finished speaking, he heard a bang from the palace, and then the blue fireball jumped to the palace and ran to the top of the palace. Looking closely, there was a figure in the middle of the fireball. It was their companion Tianfirong, who was Kinjian wrapped, eyes closed, although his face is a little painful, but as Chi Changjai said, it is not only harmless to him, but also a great benefit. Qingyan is a strange fire with amazing power, even Chi Changjai can't bear it, so he took Guyao and Little Fatty back. From time to time, Tianfirong could be heard screaming in pain. Chi Changjai silently stood in front of Guyao, not letting him see it. At the same time, he also turned his back on his back, because under the green flames, can Tianfirong's clothes be preserved? Guyao didn't realize what was going on until he was blocked. Looking at Chi Changjai, he couldn't help laughing. Chi Changjai's ears were a little hot, but he was determined not to shake. The cyan flame burned for 2 days and 2 nights before it stopped. No, the correct statement should be that it was in Tianfirong's body. At the same time, Tianfirong's cultivation level rose rapidly to the completion of the foundation. When the little fat man saw it clearly, his eyes were shocked. The child is about to fall out. Chi Changjai glanced sharply, looked at Tianfirong who was falling down, and said that the green flame was not completely absorbed by Tianfirong, and most of the flame power should be sealed in his body, otherwise if he completely absorbed it, it should have formed elixir by now. That was left by the Jindan cultivator before he was transformed. Of course, it may also absorb indigestion, and then be attacked by the Jindan strength's descendants, and the whole person was burned to ashes. At this time, Tianfirong finally landed on the ground. His body was covered with new vestments, his eyes were also opened, Yumang flickered, and it took a while for his eyes to return to black. Too much flame power, otherwise it will be burned to ashes, so the green flames that have left the consciousness of the predecessors are automatically sealed in my body, waiting to be slowly absorbed in the future. The little fat man walked over and gave him a fist. "My dear, you really got a big bargain. If you really break through the golden pill, wouldn't you be leaving Brother Chi behind you?" Tian Firong apologized, how can I compare with Brother Qi? Brother Qi came from his own cultivation, and his spiritual power is much stronger than mine. Even if I absorb all of it, it can't compare to Brother Kai's strength. Qi Changjai nodded humbly, it's better to seal it up, otherwise you won't be able to control this force. What comes from outside is what comes from outside, and only when it is completely transformed into one's own will it be your true strength. This is fortunately stuck before the formation of the elixir, otherwise Tian Firong will not be able to take a step forward after the formation of the elixir, and will stay in the golden elixir forever. Although the golden elixir is enough for Tianlin continent, Tian Firong will be able to be satisfied with this in the future? Are we going to leave here next? Envy is envy, but the fat man's mentality is still relatively good, maybe he will be able to run into his own opportunity next time. Qi Changjai looked at Tian Firong, who rubbed his head and said, the ancestral consciousness left in this green flame has told me something, and I can probably guess why the Yan clan was exterminated, except for the Yan clan. After a few generations, Qinjian will appear outside the body, and because of the former Yanyuan city, there is also a teleportation array that leads to the outside. Really? Qi Changjai and Gu Yao glanced at each other, and Dean Yu told them that the former Yanyuan city had a teleportation array, but with the destruction of Yanyuan city, what is the condition of this teleportation array, whether it can still be used or not? In order to know, the most important thing is that the teleportation formation does not know where it is now. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 194. The little fat man immediately asked, is the teleportation array still there now? Wouldn't it be destroyed by those guys back then? Tian Firong shook his head and said, it's hard to say, but we can go over there to see if the teleportation array can still be used. Of course, according to his estimation, most of them are destroyed, and I don't know if they can be repaired. How to get there? Gu Yao grabbed the key word. Tian Firong grinned happily, actually, the entrance we came in is only used in case of accidental appearance, it was hardly used when the Yan clan was still there, so it turns out that the Yan clan entered the secret realm from the original Yanyuan city. There are those who go in, those who come in and those who come out, come with me, and I will show you. Tian Firong absorbed the Qinjian left by the ancestors of the Yan family, and could freely enter and leave the palace, which was the core of the entire secret realm, and could bring outsiders in and out. The door that Qi Changjai couldn't open with the strength of Jin Dan before, Tian Firong opened it easily with a magic trick, and then stepped in calmly. The crystal snake and the black cat cub looked the same, looking around, curious about this place that was inaccessible before. They were running around in the secret realm, but they couldn't get in here. After Gu Yao and the others went in, they glanced at it. The hall was very empty, with a square in the middle. There was still a strong green flame on the square. It must be where the original Yuan stayed. The fire attribute here is even more intense. And it is only suitable for monks like Tian Firong to stay. Tian Firong didn't make everyone wait for a long time, and after playing a few spiritual tricks, he saw a light circle on the ground in the center of the hall. Needless to say, this light circle has a teleportation function. Several people stepped in with Tian Firong, and after standing up, Tian Firong played another spiritual art. Several figures disappeared in the hall immediately. Just now, he was still in a place where the fire attribute aura was extremely strong, but the next moment there was a place full of yin and dead energy, and because of their appearance, there was a rustling sound. Tian Firong sacrificed his from the Wanya pot, several fire crows flew out and circled around, and the air suddenly became a lot fresher. Qi Changjai glanced at it lightly, then stood beside Gu Yao with his arms folded. Gu Yao sighed when he saw the surrounding situation. This is the old site of Yanyuan city, it should be buried somewhere in the desert of death now. Bar. Tian Firong's heart was heavy, it should be. In fact, no one can find it, so as not to disturb the people who used to live here. Several people walked on the ruins, and in some places there are still intact walls. It can be seen that the materials used are very strong, and some places collapsed and shattered after a little touch. A lot of fine insects ran out, and in a blink of an eye, they burrowed into a hidden place. Such a place also breeds existences similar to bright souls, but there are 4 people here, one has a green physique, the other is a thunder sword cultivator, and there are special alien beasts like black cat cubs. How dare the ghosts approach? He had run away long ago when he smelled the terrible breath. Tianfirong also searched for a long time to find the place, because where there is a corresponding appearance in this ruins, he can only estimate one direction to search. It should be here. There are still remnants of the formation, but without the spiritual energy, it will not be able to play any role. Tianfirong touched a formation flag on the ground. The formation flag was dim and was originally an excellent spiritual material. Is useless now. The 4 of them used their spiritual power to clean up the place, and the gravel above was also removed, and the large formation below emerged, but after seeing the appearance clearly, the 4 of them showed their expressions as expected, because the entire formation was shattered like a spider. Just like the net, even if it has been separated for a long time, you can still see that it was artificially destroyed by careful observation, and you can find out which attacks are fatal. Tianfei Rongmo looked at Qi Changjai awkwardly and asked, "Is it still possible to fix it?" Among the 4 of them, Qi Changjai was the one with the best formation cultivation. Qi Changjai glanced at him helplessly and thought about what he was thinking, not to mention the formation itself. Even if these materials were not complete, don't even think about it. Although as expected, Tianfirong was still slightly disappointed. Superior. However, they stayed for a while in the secret realm. Tianfirong threw the menya pot into the magma, so that it could absorb more flame power to improve its performance. When they came out of the rock paddle again, the wanya pot could open the way for them, sucking up the flames around them, leaving a barrier to them ashore. All kinds of creatures that depend on the magma to survive here, when they first appeared. They wanted to do something, but the breath released by Tianfirong immediately retracted them, leaving a lot of fresh passage. The 4 people and 2 beasts returned along the original road, far away from the underground magma, and the heat began to decline, but at the corner of an underground cave, Qi Changjai stomped his feet, stretched out his hand and grabbed the dark place next to him, and then he grabbed a monk and came out. When clearing this person, Tianfirong and the little fat man gasped. "Isn't that the guy who escaped last when he was attacked by the insect wave? Did this guy find us long ago and has been following us? He was here waiting for us to come out." Tianfirong was surprised, otherwise he couldn't explain why this cultivator appeared here, hiding too secretly. He and little fatty didn't notice it at all, but Guyao didn't show too much strangeness, so he should have noticed. Qi Changjai's spiritual power that restrained him loosened a little, and the man was able to speak out, calling for help. "I accidentally found out that there is a worm nest here. I didn't follow a few people on purpose. Really, you believe me, I am a cultivator living outside the desert of death, teamed up with other deists, just wanting to hunt for treasure. I can swear that I will never tell what happened to the 4. At this time, Guyao and the others have recovered their appearances, and now there are not many people who can't recognize them. But Tianfirong and little fatty ignored his begging eyes and words, and looked at Qi Changjai together. Brother Qi had the final say on how to deal with it. Even Guyao was indifferent. There was no purpose to hide here instead of continuing to probe. Moreover, with such a clever concealment method, if it were not for him and Qi Changjai, neither would have been able to discover his existence. This clever concealment method itself explained the problem. Qi Changjai's spiritual power was withdrawn again, and the cultivator was unable to make a sound, struggling desperately, his eyes sometimes begging for mercy and sometimes angry, but Qi Changjai patted his Tianling cover with one hand. The cultivator died of anger. Qi Changjai's hand did not leave. Directly using soul search, you can find out if there are any problems. Halfway through the search, the cultivator immediately lost his soul, and he was restrained in his soul as before. Chi Changji withdrew his hand expressionlessly, and said, "It seems that our whereabouts have been exposed, and Tian Firong's identity is suspected. Already." Tian Firong was gnashing his teeth. Even if he wanted to live a good life for himself, he had to fight this group of people to the end, otherwise there would only be a dead end. "Let's go." Chi Changji waved his hand, pulled Gu Yao to walk in front. Tian Firong and little Fatty hurriedly followed. Not long after they left, and the corpse was completely covered by insects. If he stayed, he would end up in the same fate as his former companions, with no bones left. Back on the ground again, his eyes were full of yellow sand, but to Tian Firong, it seemed like a long time had passed. Looking back in the direction of the secret realm, he has already obtained the most important things in the secret realm. I don't know if he will come back one day in the future, or maybe his talent is limited after all, and he will come back here when his life essence is about to run out. Come to sit, and like the ancestors, strip the green flames out of the body, and stay in the secret realm to wait for the destined descendants to come and inherit. When he was about to leave the desert of death, Tian Firong only regained his previous temperament. Of course, it may be that his cultivation base has increased, and he seems to be a lot calmer than before. Well, at least in the eyes of others. A few days later, they entered a relatively large city of self-cultivation to rest. Compared with the days in the desert of death, they felt that they were finally alive. Tian Firong leaned on Yizi and picked his teeth lazily. "Brother Qi, where are we going next?" Qi Changji drank the spirit tea, and said with an elegant and responsible attitude, "You will know when you get there. Don't worry, even if your identity is suspected, they can't do anything now." Tian Firong basked his lips and laughed. "Of course I know, with Brother Qi around, anyone who dares to come here will find it impatient to live. The safest thing is to follow Brother Qi away." After resting for a day, they resumed their journey, and they spent the rest of the day on the flying instruments. Although Tian Firong gained the most from the previous trip to the desert of death, Gu Yao and the little fat man also improved their cultivation bases, and it was found that the spiritual power in the body has also been purified a lot, and it is still beneficial in the hard and lack of spiritual energy in the desert of death. Probably the greater the pressure, the more the potential of a person can be revealed. Gu Yao held the pill furnace and looked at the pills in the furnace. He just finished refining a pill, and the little fat man was puzzled. Wasn't the refining successful? Chi Changji picked up an elixir, which seemed to have stars twinkling in it, and then threw the elixir into his mouth, startling Tian Firong and the little fat man, and he didn't know what kind of elixir Gu Yao was refining. "Medicine, just eat it indiscriminately. You must know that Gu Yao also likes to refine some poisonous things." Gu Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Why do you eat without asking? How does it feel to eat?" Chi Changji hooked his lips with a smile and said that it was the 7-star pill. "Has it been completely restored?" "Well, the Kixing Z used is not very old, so it doesn't help me much, but the direction is right." He could feel a refreshing air rushing into the sea of knowledge, like a gust of fresh wind blowing, and he was refreshed. If it is used by a cultivator who has just established a foundation during the refining period, he should be able to experience a very obvious effect. Yes, it's Kixingden, but it still feels a little lacking, so let's use the short year Kixing Z for alchemy, and keep the oldest plant first. Gu Yao felt that it could be improved a little more, and he also more and more aware of their strengths and weaknesses in alchemy. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 195. One pot of Kixing pill was divided up by the 3 people except Chi Changji. After that, Gu Yao made a few more pots. After taking it, the 3 of them obviously felt that their spiritual consciousness had increased. The most obvious thing is that Tian Firong felt that the time for refining the newly absorbed Qingjian flame power would be greatly shortened, and his control power would be significantly enhanced. Passing by a city with an alchemy branch, Guyao took out this repaired 7-star alchemy prescription and let the branch pass it back to President Hu Ting of the main guild. He just showed the identity of the elder, the branch's Chang naturally didn't dare to refuse. After Guyao and his party left, the branch president realized Guyao's possible identity later, and he was so remorseful that he didn't keep alchemist Guyao in the branch for a while. Time, please give Guyao's guidance, his alchemy will definitely make great progress. He didn't know that the reason why he was confused was due to the interference of Guyao's consciousness. In the Alchemy Masters General Guild, Hu Ting received something sent back from the branch, opened it and saw that it was the 7-star pills pill recipe. The progress was beyond his imagination. When he thought Guyao was good enough, Guyao often went further than he expected. Kixing pill is not an ordinary pill recipe, but it is more difficult to restore than other pill recipes when it comes to the soul. Although Guyao Bailai claims that he still feels flawed and can continue to improve, Hu Ting feels that this kind of pill is more difficult to restore than other pill recipes. Mentality is the fundamental reason why Guyao can continue to rise. The appearance of Kixingdan in the Alchemy Master Guild naturally caused quite a stir. Since the end of the battle in Shifang City, Guyao disappeared with Qi Changjai. How many people want to know his whereabouts? Some even think it was controlled by Qi Changjai and used by him alone, otherwise Qi Changjai could not have practiced so fast. Guyao himself had heard of this statement himself. At the time, he was speechless and extremely funny. If the medicinal pill had such an effect, then now the number one person in Tianlin continent should be Guyao, not Qi Changjai. But just when everyone could not find Guyao's whereabouts, the appearance of Kixingdan pushed his reputation to a higher point. Hu Ting announced to the public that Kixingdan was restored by Guyao's independent research. It was handed over to the Alchemist General Guild for free, and this result led to another wave of actions to find the whereabouts of Guyao's alchemist. After learning where the alchemy recipe was sent from, many cultivators rushed to the cultivation city where the 4 of them had stayed, but the 4 of them had already left, and even the members of the Alchemist Guild, I don't remember what kind of appearance they used, so I didn't know after asking 3 questions, so these monks could only use the city as the core and spread their search around. Dean Yu of Tianfu College also got the news. He looked at the topographic map of Tianlin continent and sighed in his heart. He knew that Qi Changjai and his party in the Desert of Death did not get the desired result, so he turned around. At the current position, he has no way of knowing where Qi Changjai and Guyao will turn next. Where are the 4 now? When the flying instrument finally landed and changed to relying on a horn-scaled horse, Tianfirong, who was in a daze, finally realized what was wrong. Brother Qi, aren't we going to go back? The road they took is becoming more and more familiar, isn't it the road they took from Yuanyang town 10 years ago? Going forward, we're going to enter Bear's Head, right? Guyao sat on the back of the horse and saw that Tianfirong finally reacted. He laughed happily. Tian brother, you finally recognized it. Yes, this is the way back to Yuanyang town, but tomorrow we will go to Xiong first. Tubeo, didn't you think about going there to see before? Tianfirong didn't know how to complain anymore. Did Guyao come here just to see Bear's Head? No matter how stupid he is, he knows it's impossible, so why is he here? Could it be that the place in Yuanyang town is so special and similar in nature to the Desert of Death? I thought about it at first, but at that time there was only a little cultivator in the Qi refining stage. Of course, a place like the Bear's Head is very rare, but now the second young master can destroy the entire Bear's Head with a wave of his hand. What else is there to see? Is it, knowing that he was going back to Yuanyang town, Tianfirong was a little excited and a little ambitious. After all, Yuanyang town is where he grew up, and he once thought it was where he was born. There are his relatives here, but he doesn't know how to deal with former relatives. It's good to go to Bear's Head, and it's good to be able to face your former relatives one day later, and you can do more psychological construction. What kind of place is Bear's Head? The little fat man was also curious. He didn't expect that the three of them came from such a place. When they came here, they knew that the aura here was too bad. It wasn't Guyao. They personally admitted that it was hard to imagine that characters like Guyao and Chi Changjai would come out here. As for Tian Firong, in his opinion, it was a luck. Tian Firong explained the situation of Bear's Head to the little fat man. People who could only move in Yuanyang town at the beginning, places like Bear's Head were like legends to him. Now he is in a good mood when talking about that place. Delicate. Guyao ignored them, and Chi Changjai threw the original leather map. Needless to say, it is difficult for ordinary magical tools to leave any traces on them, let alone destroy them. I still can't see where it is. Chi Changjai nodded. I have to compare the other copy, and I don't know if the person was alive or dead. If I knew earlier, I should have paid more attention to it and grabbed the map directly. It should be alive. After all, Yuanyang town has not had any major incidents over the years. Unless they want to find their own way, there should be no forces that will embarrass them. Guyao guessed that the three families in the town are still there, although the strength of the three families has changed a lot, but for some reason, it is still a three-legged pattern, so those small forces in the middle of the gap also have room to survive. Chi Changjai also felt that the problem was not a big deal. Even if that person was gone, his subordinates could always find a few people and turn out the map. The thing in Guyao's hand finally caught Tian Firong's attention and curiosity. What is this? It's a map. It's not that we came here for this, right? Guyao remembered that when he got this thing, Tian Firong was not at the scene, so he couldn't help laughing. Tian Urge has seen this thing, but it wasn't like this at the beginning. Tian Urge still remembers 10 years ago when have you ever gambled on boxes? All three of us have gained, and this map is what Brother Ye has gained. It's been so long, Guyao didn't mention that Tian Firong had forgotten it, and now he was trying hard to dig out the past, and finally remembered it. The result was jaw-dropping. At least he remembered that he got something like a rag at the end of the night, but he didn't expect it now. I don't recognize the competition at all. Sure enough, the chance depends on the person. What is going on with this thing? Guyao explained what happened at the beginning, including the fact that the person left a map in his hand. Maybe he set up a trap to see who would step in. He didn't expect to get Chi Changjai, and Chi Changjai was in those days. There has been no movement in the town, making the other party wait in vain for a while, and now that he has cultivated a golden core in Chi Changjai, it is useless for the other party to think about it more. Tian Firong called out darling, but he didn't have the vision to see this thing into his hands. Guyao was amused. He hadn't told him what he got at the beginning. If Tian Firong knew about it, he wouldn't be so shocked that he would fall off the horse's back. Speaking of what the three of them had gained at the beginning, it seemed that Tian Firong had the biggest gain. His gains are completely negligible in front of Guyao and Chi Changjai's gains, and he is not wronged. A piece of rag has such a big name. Tian Firong couldn't help but think of the iron piece Guyao got, but the iron piece you got also hides some great opportunities. Guyao smiled without saying a word. Tian Firong's intuition was not good, and he beat his chest and feet. It seemed that he was a big fool at the beginning, and the little fat man almost rolled off his laughter. After the sun went down, the four found an open space to rest, and set up a fire to grill the prey brought by Tian Firong. The four of them chatted and laughed, as if they did not see the monks hiding in the dark. Concentrated, it looks like a four-person cheerifying little cultivator, like a son of an aristocratic family who got rid of his guards and went out for a walk. Kill them, and who to kill? Because the skin of the prey can't be seen at all, so the people hiding in the dark haven't found it at all. This is the prey with the foundation building strength. If he knew, he would have rolled to hide. The ignorant are fearless. The four of them shared the barbecue and drank the spirit tea, and then meditated around the fire for the night, before setting off tomorrow morning. The people hiding in the dark increasingly thought that the four of them were sons and brothers who didn't know the dangers in the world. They dared to rest in such a field without taking any protective measures. One of them threw something, and the fire burned for a while. A plume of smoke spread. After a while, 7 or 8 people emerged from the dark, surrounded the 4 people beside the fire, and put the knife on the necks of the 4 people, and then another person walked out, swaying, and walked in front of one of them. Reaching out his hand, he was about to rip off the storage bag around his waist. When he saw that the storage bag was bulging, he knew that it contained a lot of things. But this man couldn't move as soon as his hand touched the storage bag. He looked up again and saw a pair of sober eyes that were half smiles and almost fell to the ground. He thought, but not only the hands, but even the whole body can't move. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 196. When Gu Yao opened his eyes, Qi Changjai and the 3 of them also shot together. To deal with this little thief in the Qi refining period, a coercion can make them unable to move, and all the knives in their hands fell to the ground. When the other 3 saw this situation, they didn't know that they had encountered a tough idea. You can't save people if you stay, so it's better to go back and call more people to save the brothers. Just before he took a few steps, a long rope flew up from the back and tied all 3 of them together. The rope was transparent crystal, but the head of the rope would turn around and face the front. The man spit out a snake letter, and the man let out a tragic scream, then closed his eyes and passed out. Because they were tied together, they almost involved the other 2 when they fell down. The 2 of them could see who was binding them. It was not a rope at all, but a snake, a crystal snake. Just the coercion of the breath coming from the snake made them almost scared to pee. The hero spares his life, the hero spares his life, they are all small and blind, we should be damned. The 2 knelt down on the spot in fright, snot, and tears, and slapped themselves while begging for mercy. At the same time, the other people also regained their freedom and followed in the footsteps of these 2 people. They knelt down as soon as their legs became weak. Not to kneel, let alone these 4 monks, only a crystal snake beside them is enough. Rolling over these little thieves, the reality is so cruel. Tianfirong and Little Fatty jumped up from the ground. It was the first time they were dealt with by a thief of this level. They were quite fresh. Pulling their belongings, mother, these 8 people have only 2 storage bags in total, and the 2 storage bags add up to more than a dozen spirit stones, and the rest are some spirit beads and gold and silver belongings. It was simply appalling. This thief is too poor. I thought he could eat black for a while. The little fat man couldn't bear it anymore. It was the first time he met such a poor thief. Tianfirong's mood was very delicate, remembering the days they once lived in Yuanyang town. Gu Yao chuckled lightly and said, when Brother Ye and I left that house, we only had 10,000 taels of silver notes and 1,000 spirit beads on our bodies, and we didn't even have a single spirit stone. These guys are much richer than we were back then, right, Brother Ye? Qi Changjai nodded with a smile, and then recalled the past. In such a dark night, he felt extremely warm. At that time, he was seriously injured, and the spiritual power in his body could not be mobilized much, and he even had to worry about what to eat next meal, but now it is different. Taste. Little Fatty, shut up. Happiness is obtained by comparison. Although he used to be like a poor little bully in Qian Valley, he has never lacked material things. I really can't imagine the days of Gu Yao and Qi Changjai in the past. Tianfirong had to interrupt the memories of the 2, and coughed lightly. How do these guys deal with it? Qi Changjai glanced at him and made Tianfirong's neck shrink. Gu Yao smiled and said, let's hug him at night, let them lead the way tomorrow and take us to Bear's Head Fort, none of us have been here before. Okay, I'll tie them up, you can go and rest. Tianfirong quickly found something to do for himself, and the little fat man also called the crystal snake back. When the crystal snake left, he used his tail to swipe the frightened dizzy one. Guy. So the guy woke up again with a scream, and when he saw the crystal snake acting coquettishly at the little fat man, he shivered and almost fainted again. The 8 people bundled up and threw them in the corner. Then Tianfirong also returned to the fire. The 4 of them continued to meditate and rest until dawn. The 8 people regretted it to death. Whoever robbed was not good at it. The 4 terrifying guys, and I don't know their origins, make people feel that they are more powerful than those in the bear's head. In fact, the 8 people were just tied into a ball with rattan on the spot. It was very easy to get rid of them, but one night until dawn, the 8 people didn't dare to escape, and they stayed in place and huddled together. Guyao and the others also waved their hands while eating breakfast. The rattan was immediately untied, and the 8 were freed again. Find something to fill your stomach, and we'll go after we finish eating. These thieves are very strange in their hearts. Although these 4 monks look young, their cultivation bases must be established, and they have to eat breakfast like ordinary people. However, the masters are often weird, and no one dared to ask any more questions. They ate some dry food they brought with them on the spot, drank a few sips of water condensed with magic formulas, and finally led Guyao and the others honestly. When they didn't dare to sleep at night, the 8 people exchanged eye contact after the initial fear passed. What is the origin of these 4 people? Did they come to Bear Head Fort? But where is Bear's Head worth such a big battle? No one thought about Guyao and his party going out of Yuanyang town, or thought it was impossible. After Guyao became famous, the people near Yuanyang town have long since scrutinized the situation of the Gu family. What kind of treatment Guyao received in the ancient family and why he left the ancient family has long been spread. Although many monks are afraid of the ancient family. Yao's surname is also Gu, and he didn't do anything to the Gu family, but I really don't think Guyao still has any feelings for the Gu family. Guyao has never contacted the Gu family. Especially after Chi Changjai made pills, who wouldn't laugh at the Gu family who picked up sesame seeds and threw away the big pumpkin, hoping to go to another Gu family's children in Changxianmen? Whether it can grow up smoothly or not, and now the teleportation array is blocked. The terrain of Bear's Head Fort is dangerous and the entrance is narrow. Most of the people who come here do not ask about their identities. As long as they have paid the full entry fee, and as long as the status of Bear's Head is not jeopardized, it doesn't matter even if they murder and set fire inside. The 8-person robbery team was headed by the 2 brothers from the Zhao family. The boss was the one who saw Guyao's storage bag, called Zhao Degu. He also had a younger brother called Zhao Ergu, who stayed in the castle and waited for his elder brother to bring people back. The 2 of them accidentally obtained an incomplete cultivation method, and they groped and cultivated some famous skills. They also pulled a small team of people here, but this time they were unfortunately planted in the hands of Guyao and a few others. Zhao Ergu asked, "Brother, didn't you send a letter back to say you found a few fat sheep? How's the harvest this time?" Zhao Ergu asked innocently, but he didn't notice that his elder brother's face was as ugly as that of his dead parents, and several of his accomplices were similar, and his legs were a little weak. Zhao Degu's heart skipped a beat, carefully glanced at the 4 of Guyao, and then slapped his second brother forcefully. "What nonsense, it's your eldest brother, I want to entertain a few guests, you take them back first, I'll take the guests, let's go around the fort. Don't drag him down for these 2 dogs to seek death by themselves. Forget it, it would be good if one of the 2 brothers survived." The 2 dogs were still far away. Zhao Degu gave a few brothers a wink and told them to take them quickly. People go. Although Zhao Ergu didn't know how Fat Sheep became a guest, he thought that maybe the eldest brother had other plans, so he left with others obediently. Shivering straight. Looking back to see Guyao and the others' eyes that were half smiling but not smiling, Zhao Degu's legs were even softer. His careful thoughts were seen by others, but he didn't make a sound to stop him. It wasn't because he was smart. Guyao stretched out his finger and pointed ahead. "Let's go, lead the way." Hey, how dare Zhao Degu refuse to obey. When they came in, the guys who were guarding the gate didn't pay special attention to the people from ancient Yao. They must have used some method. There are dragons and snakes mixed in the Bear's Head Fort, and the smell of blood wafts in the air. It can be seen that there are usually many deaths here. Knowing Guyao and their interests, Zhao Degu took them straight to the black market in Bear's Head. The black market lives up to its name. In the daytime, the light in the black market is also very dark. I don't know if it is deliberately creating a dark and chaotic effect, and the air here is not very good, so the smell is even more unpleasant. Tian Firong's face is a little ugly. Come on. I used to have some fantasies about the bear head that I longed for when I was a child, but now there is nothing, and reality is used to attack people. Not long after entering, one person suddenly rushed towards the four of Guyao. There were people in the front, back, left and right, and there was no way to avoid them. Moreover, there were a lot of people watching the show all around. Guyao and the four clearly looked at their faces. Very unfamiliar, this newcomer is the fat sheep that is most likely to be targeted. Zhao Degu couldn't help but want to close his eyes. Those guys were just as blind as him. They actually regarded these people as fat sheep. Unfamiliar faces didn't mean they were easy to bully. As a result, before the man hit Guyao and the others, he was bounced away by an invisible force, and slammed into a booth behind him. This guy is too kind, for fear of hitting us, he bounced out on his own. This big brother, didn't he hurt where? The man who fell to the ground had a gloomy expression on his face. He knew that he had come across a tough idea. "Boy, you're okay, I'm okay," the stall owner behind him roared, and the four of them swayed their hands and left. The stall owner behind him grabbed the person who knocked over his stall and clamored for compensation. The four of Guyao were also not interested in knowing. Anyway, the things on the stall were just a bunch of junk, and there weren't many valuable things. The stall owner obviously knew that the four of Guyao were not as simple as they appeared, so they only catch that guy. After that, Guyao and the others were a little quieter, but Zhao Degu smiled bitterly. After Guyao and the others left, these guys in the black market would probably find him, but he didn't know the origin of these guys. There were a lot of scrutiny eyes and spiritual senses that fell on them. The four of Guyao ignored them and wandered around in the black market. Although there were few things that could catch their eyes, they thought of Guyao and Qi in the gambling box. There are big harvests in the long night. Tian Firong thinks that maybe he can find treasures in this kind of place. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 197. Maybe it's bad luck, maybe it's because they have a lot of eyes now, and they haven't come across anything that catches their eye for a long time. During this time, there are still people who dare to sell their so-called "I don't know where they came from." It's a good baby, but unfortunately, in front of a fake booth, Guyao bought a few seeds with a strange expression, but the seeds seemed to have been stored for too long, and their vitality was almost lost. A few spirit stones were given to the stall owner who recommended them. After receiving the spirit stones, the stall owner turned around and disappeared into the crowd. "What kind of seed is this?" Tian Firong asked curiously. He didn't think Guyao was deceived. He just thought it was no wonder that he was unlucky. Even if there was something good in front of him, he probably wouldn't recognize it. Guyao picked up an almost petrified seed and said that this is the seed of Mukigyo. With this trip to the Bear's Head Fort will not come in vain. Qi Changjai raised his eyebrows. He could feel that there was an extremely weak vitality in it. If it fell into the hands of others, it might be a waste seed, but Guyao was different. Taking it will be of great benefit to Guyao. Being able to encounter these two kinds of spiritual fruits at the same time and take them together is a great opportunity for the wood-fire dual system spiritual root cultivator. The Huaki fruit tree in Yan's secret realm was completely taken into the space by Guyao. When the fruit was ripe, Guyao picked a few to Tianfirong. Neither the latter nor Fatty asked the whereabouts of the tree. Tianfirong and little Fatty also breathed a sigh of relief. It's good to have a harvest. As for whether this kind of seed can grow up, it needs to be said. Guyao has the ability to turn corruption into magic, that's how they believe in Guyao. The two of them also bought two things at random and left the black market with Guyao. In fact, there are a few slightly valuable things mixed in a pile of debris, but unfortunately it is also useful for monks who have not yet established a foundation. The two of them didn't start after thinking about it. Maybe other monks with good luck can get it, so they can get a promotion. After leaving the black market, there are still all kinds of eyes following behind him. Several times in the black market, they seem to pass by Guyao and the others by coincidence, which makes the people behind them more cautious. Not long after, a mansion whose style was quite different from the environment here came into their line of sight. It was not only tall and neat, but also relatively luxurious, the kind of luxury with golden light. The little fat man pointed at the house and asked, "Is the master here unusual?" Zhao Dego said timidly, "The person living inside is the boss Jin of Bear's Head, and there are many people under him. Anyway, the boss Jin has been there since I came here, and the position of the other two bosses has been empty for many years. Can be shaken." The little fat man said happily, "Boss Jin? No wonder he made so much gold to decorate the facade." The four of them had no intention of inquiring into the details of the mansion, and planned to leave directly from the front, but at this time, some familiar voices from the back made Guyao's footsteps pause slightly, and Tianfirong also looked back with a little embarrassment. In Boss Jin's mansion, a few people were walking outside, and one of them said eagerly, "Please help to say a few good words to our Gu family, our ancient family will be grateful. Here are a few bottles of medicinal herbs, a few first use it, and give us a double if you need it." The man said that he shoved a few jade bottles into the hands of those few people, and the few monks smiled calmly, and even a little more smile on their faces when they got the benefit. "Okay, our boss often mentions your ancient family's family. Old ancestor, I haven't seen each other for a long time. By the way, our boss Jin is also envious of your ancient family for having a genius. He is famous in the entire Tianlin continent. In fact, if you really want something, go if you find that one, you can definitely solve any problem," and honestly, the big housekeeper said that the bottle of spirit dew is the treasure of our boss Jin. The big housekeeper smiled bitterly and said, "Okay, then I'll come to the Angwifu next time. I'll go first this time, you guys stay. It's good to leave." Several people separated at the gate of the mansion, and several cultivators in the Golden House watched the Gu family go away with mocking expressions on their faces. One person took out the jade bottle, opened it, glanced at it, and said, "This time the Gu family has made a lot of money for our brothers. Usually, such a medicinal pill would not be sold out, but now it is sent to us for no money. Yeah, how arrogant the Gu family was in the past, now it's really self-inflicted and can't live. I didn't see us mentioning the genius of the Gu family." How embarrassed the big housekeeper's face was, and they didn't push it out by themselves. The Gu family has become the worst family in Yuanyang town. What on earth is the Xiaolinglu in the hands of the boss of the Gu family? Don't ask, this kind of thing has nothing to do with us, we just do our own thing, go and go back. No one noticed the few people who were staying not far away. Zhao Degu was so frightened that his legs trembled, but Mr. Jin's corner was so nice. Unexpectedly, they were standing here, and no one noticed them, including the ancient family members who had hurried past them. "Xiaolinglu? This boss Jin has Xiaolinglu in his hand, Gu Yao asked Zhao Degu curiously. Zhao Degu hurriedly said, "It's the rumors that have spread recently, saying that Boss Jin got more than a dozen drops of Xiaolinglu in his early years, and I heard that Xiaolinglu is a spiritual thing in the world, and only one drop can be condensed in a certain place at a certain time for 100 years, and this Xiaolinglu is also a good thing to treat internal injuries. Someone in the Gu family is injured? Even their own medicinal pills don't work? Is it the patriarch of the Gu family or the old ancestor who often retreats?" Gu Yao was even more curious. He had heard of Xiaolinglu, but it is not that rare for him. Although there are some miraculous effects, it is not without substitutes, and he can refine the best pills, and the curative effect is still higher than that of Xiaolinglu. Zhao Degu shook his head. "I haven't heard of it. It is estimated that even if someone is injured, the news will not reach our ears. Boss Jin dares to mock the Gu family, but how dare we? The Gu family still has a deterrent effect on these low-level cultivators. At most, they will watch the Gu family's jokes behind their backs, but they don't dare to do anything in front of them." Qi Changjai looked at Gu Yao. "Want to visit?" Gu Yao hesitated for a moment and said, "Okay, let's go and have a look. Anyway, I'll go there to find someone." Drop by. Then he waved to Zhao Degu and said, "Let's go. This time you meet us, you are lucky, next time it won't happen." Yes, I'll change it when I'm young, and I'm going to get out of here." Zhao Degu ran away, wishing to be as far away from these people as possible. "I didn't expect that there would still be a chance to survive. After running far enough, then legs are still weak." Gu Yao and the others flew out directly from the sky. On the way, they also saw the Gu family's group of people who were walking on scaly horses. The big butler of the Gu family had a solemn expression and was preoccupied. Gu Yao did not stop and flew straight over. On the contrary, the big butler raised his head and looked up into the air with a sense of feeling, but there was nothing in the air except for the birds flying by. "Big housekeeper, can Boss Jin promise us the Gu family? Or, let's find a way to find young Master Gu Yao." The person who came out with the big housekeeper is also the confidant guard of the house owner. The situation is that they have some complaints and regrets about the Gu family master and the second room, and they didn't pay much attention to Gu Yao at the beginning. Otherwise, they might be able to let the young Master Gu Yao help, and they didn't see the second young master of the Tian family always following Gu Yao. By his side, with that kind of aptitude, he has built a foundation. The big housekeeper shook his head and sighed. "You only hear from outsiders how good-tempered Master Gu Yao is and how well-rounded he is, but that is for those who have never offended Master Gu Yao, and forget that Master Gu Yao hasn't left since he left the Gu family. The days in Yangzhen? All the people who came to the Gu family were sent back by the young Master Gu Yao on the spot. If there is really a chance to save it, I believe that the owner of the family would be willing to kneel down to young Master Gu Yao, but what a pity. What a pity. It's a pity that there is a dead end between Gu Yao and the Gu family, which offends people severely, and young Master Gu Yao is not a person who values blood kinship. Unless Gu Yao's biological mother is still alive, there is still a glimmer of hope. Nowadays, who doesn't say that the Gu family is short-sighted? Gu Yao is a rare encounter in 1,000 years, and if you miss it, you will miss it. Now you can only use the incident of Gu Yao's surname Gu to make others dare not reach out to the Gu family. Although the Gu family is laughed at by others, but in fact, it's a little bit of light, but it's just that I can't raise my head outside. Then young Master Gu Yang. The big housekeeper shook his head. In the past 10 years, there has been no news at all, and even the head of the family is getting more and more disappointed. It seems that he can't get ahead, otherwise he will find a way to come back at the last Immortal promotion conference. Where's young Master Gu Chen? The big housekeeper's face sank, and the others shut up. The confidants of these family owners don't even know the whereabouts of young Master Gu Chen. They were still on their way. The four of Gu Yao had already entered Yuanyang town. The little fat man looked around curiously. Among the four of them, three of them walked out from here. He felt that this inconspicuous town should be in the whole Tianlin continent is famous. The little fat man had a good idea. For a while, there were quite a few foreign monks in Yuanyang town. Some were curious, and some wanted to get the aura of genius, but when they came, they were very disappointed. The training ring here is really bad. Spiritual energy is scarce, and various resources are extremely poor. To be able to cultivate to the foundation here, it is estimated that the resources of the entire family are piled up. It is extremely lucky to be able to come out with Gu Yao and the others. In addition, when I heard about the situation of the Gu family, the foreign monks were extremely disappointed, so they left one after another, which disappointed the people in the town very much, because there were foreign monks who could do more business. Gu Yao stopped and asked, "Let's go to Fangxi to find Boss Dong first? Or split up, Brother Tian, do you want to go back to Tian's house?" Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 198. Tian Firong hesitated for a while, and finally chose to go back to Tian's house. Now it's better to go back to see his father and grandfather quietly, so as not to make it known to everyone. The little fat man acted with Gu Yao, and the affairs of the Tian family are not suitable for outsiders to participate. Tian Firong came to the front of the Tian family mansion with an unfamiliar face, and the spirit of the guards at the door was a little different from before. He understood that this was the achievement of him, his eldest brother and his aunt outside to bring to the Tian family. The confidence that came here, along the way, you can also see that the popularity of the Tianjia side is more prosperous than before. Before arousing suspicion from the guards, Tian Firong left the gate again, went around to the back and sneaked into the house. He grew up here, and he was very familiar with every plant and tree inside, and even those formations couldn't stop him, but when he came to his grandfather's side and saw his grandfather and his father sitting together to deal with daily affairs, his mind moved and touched the formation outside. Who broke into my Tian family? When Patriarch Tian rushed out, before the scolding in his mouth was over, he saw the people standing outside who had been away for more than 10 years, and had grown from a young man to a young man. Famous. Isn't there a hallucination in front of me? Is it really Fei Rong's return? Why didn't he come back first? Father Tian's eyes were red and he still dared not believe. Grandfather, father, I want to give you a surprise. Tian Firong grinned, his eyes were also a little red. Good boy. Tian Patriarch was extremely relieved, and the child was still willing to recognize them. On the other side, the three of Gu Yao came to the market, looking at the familiar scenery. Gu Yao and Qi Changjai smiled at each other. The little fat man felt that he was the redundant one, but luckily there was Li Yulai with him. Gu Yao and Qi Changjai were not people who lived in the past blindly, but Yuanyang town still had a special meaning for them. It could be said that both of them were reborn here, and this is where they lived in Tianlin, the beginning of the continent. But after all, the place is too small. I feel like I have reached the three no-go zone in the middle of the three markets after a while. The pattern of three-legged confrontation has not changed. Buddy, but not the same buddy as it was 10 years ago. The little fat man has also played this thing outside, but now he is not very interested, and after coming here, Qi Changjai let go of his spiritual search and took Gu Yao's hand to the back. The passerby ignored the existence of the three of them, and easily jumped into the wall. Behind the shop is a yard. Coincidentally, not only did the boss Dong live well at the time, but he was now in a room behind the yard. Boss Dong is listening to the reports of his subordinates. For decades, they are all trivial matters. He is a little tired of hearing them. But if he doesn't do it, others will step on him. To be on top. Boss Dong is in a trance. For some reason, he often thinks of the past. Maybe because he is old, he always likes to recall the high-spirited situation when he was young. A young man, I recently got the news that one of them fought back the Jindanlai envoy of Changxianmen, and made a 10-year oath to block the teleportation array leading to Changxianmen, and Shifang City, the city lord's mansion, had nothing to do with him, pretending to be deaf and dumb. The other person is also a genius alchemist with a reputation no less than Hu Guzu, but in just 10 years, he is more brilliant and dazzling than the life that others have lived through in a lifetime. People can't help but feel jealous. When he was young, he was not too greedy for life and fear of death, and dared to leave Yuanyang town to go out for a walk. Will his achievements be much higher than that of guarding a shop now? It's a pity that there is no if. He has surrounded his whole life in Yuanyang town, can't build a foundation, only has a short 100 years of life, and he can't see how high and how far those two talented youngsters can go in the future. Thinking of these, Boss Dong lazily waving his hand and letting him go about his own business. When the others left, Boss Dong pulled out the broken skin on his body, and he became obsessed with this broken skin. Even if he died, I also want to know what kind of secrets are hidden in this map, and what is the situation of the broken skin in the hands of the two teenagers. Suddenly, Boss Dong's eyebrows jumped, but he couldn't do anything. He could only watch the piece of skin in his hand fly out. His eyes widened, and 3 young monks walked in from the door. The faces of the 2 people in front were so familiar. Boss Dong opened his mouth and said silently, "Chi, Senior, Gu Alchemist." Gu Yao fished the broken skin, and when Chi Changjai thought about it, Boss Dong regained his freedom, but he didn't call for help outside. Even if he recruited all the monks in the town, could anyone still be able to deal with Chi Changjai? It's an honor for Dong Mao to visit the 2 of you. I can't understand this map. The 2 want it? Dong Mao offers it with both hands. I just want to know what secrets are hidden in this map before I die. For a moment, Boss Dong put his life and death aside. It was an honor to see these 2 again before he died. Moreover, he was a little excited to let these 2 come back specially to get this map in his hand. Does it explain the secret recorded in the map? Even Jindan cultivator will be moved. Gu Yao smiled. I take the liberty to interrupt, and I ask Boss Dong to forgive me. As for this map, Boss Dong wants to read it like this, and he won't be able to understand it for a lifetime. He said that he took out the medicinal liquid that he had prepared earlier, and slowly sprinkled the medicinal liquid on the broken skin. Boss Dong was surprised to find that after the broken skin absorbed the medicinal liquid, it was like sharp peeling off a layer of skin, turning white and white. Glossy, is this what it really looks like? He couldn't help laughing bitterly. As Gu Yao said, this thing fell into his hands, and he really couldn't understand it for a lifetime. Presumably not many people can match this restored medicinal liquid. The little fat man also looked at the scene in amazement. Gu Yao also took out another map, spread it on the table, and spliced the 2 pieces together. An even more surprising scene happened. The 2 pieces of animal skins quickly merged to form a new complete animal skin. The texture of the picture also twisted for a while before it stabilized. Boss Dong was stunned. The other one was sent by him himself, but he almost missed the opportunity of disguising the photo. Sure enough, he is not the one who is destined, and good things are in his hands. Don't know how to use it? Where is this? Gu Yao asked, and then the 3 heads came together to look at it, but none of them knew which terrain was drawn on it. Boss Dong was unbearable and dared to say, I ran a lot of places when I was young. Do you want me to recognize me? Gu Yao and Chi Changjai looked at each other and smiled. They really didn't understand the terrain outside Yuanyang town. Even the original body, even the Gu family's house seldom came out. There were monsters and beasts outside. Don't ask for help from Boss Dong here. I believe he doesn't dare to play tricks under the eyes of the 2 now. Boss Dong, let's take a look. Gu Yao gave up his seat. Boss Dong felt weird. Looking at the way Gu Yao and Chi Changjai got along, it was almost the same as it was 10 years ago, but his mind was attracted by the map on the animal skin, and he had no time to think about the other side. Keep an eye on the lines above. After almost every line was engraved in his mind, Boss Dong said, I think of where the landform is drawn on it, that is. Gu Yao waved his hand and said, the boss of the barley will show us the way. We are not familiar with this place, but we have to wait before starting, and we have to wait for the second brother Tian to come. Boss Dong's eyebrows jumped again, and the second young master of the Tian family also came back together. He said why only 3 people showed up. It turned out that the second young master of Tian went back to the Tian family. Also, how can anyone go back to Yuanyang town and not go home? Yes, I don't know how many people in the town envy Tian Ershao in recent years. At the beginning, he had a unique vision to take in Guyao and Shi Changjai who were kicked out of the ancient family. Now they are only in their 20s and have already built their foundation. Including the boss himself. Then I will first arrange a place for the 3 of them to rest, Boss Dong said smartly, and finally he let the place out, forbid others to come in, and personally served the 3 of them. Guyao and the others prepared the fruit spirit tea, and the food was the same. The spiritual energy here was so thin that nothing good could be produced. However, Guyao asked him about the situation of the Gu family. Although he happened to meet the Gu family at the Bear's Head Fort and guessed who might be seriously injured in the Gu family, he was actually not very interested in the specific situation. There is a confession to the original body. Seeing that Guyao asked casually, Boss Dong guessed that Guyao just wanted to know the situation of the people in the Gu family, rather than really caring about them. Otherwise, there are many ways to know, and he would only ask after all the things that need to be dealt with. Boss Dong said, now the Gu family is barely supporting its original position. It turned out that the ancient family still has alchemy to support it, but later. Boss Yi said that he gave Guyao a special look, since the emergence of the Alchemist Guild, the status of this ancient family has been threatened. I believe that in another 10 or 20 years, the situation will be even worse. Boss Dong said in his heart that Guyao's hand is the most ruthless, and the alchemy technique that the Gu family is proud of can no longer be monopolized by him. In fact, Boss Dong really hopes that a branch will be established in Yuanyang town, so they buy elixirs. It will be easier, and it will be much easier for people who learn alchemy to read the difference. He didn't expect this effect at all, and he couldn't help but be happy. Boss Dong secretly said, Guyao really doesn't have feelings for the Gu family, otherwise he would be able to laugh in such a situation? Obviously watching the fun of the Gu family. The third room of the Gu family, the second room is the most unsatisfactory now, the old second is now drunk, and Gu Xing is married early. He is from a family outside Yuanyang town. I heard that because of jealousy, he killed a talented concubine in the other's family. Was abolished Danshan and left in the side courtyard, no one from the Gu family bothered, and now I don't know if it's life or death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 199. Guyao raised her eyebrows. It turns out that Gu Xing had killed herself to such an extent. With her temper that was unleashed, what good results could she have without Gu Jiazuo to rely on? The other Gu Chen in the twins has long since disappeared, Gu Alchemist knows. Boss Dong continued after seeing Guyao nodding. Fang's situation in the second room is not much better than Fang's seeing. I heard that he was arrested by the second room. The concubine of the concubine is tortured so that people don't look like ghosts and ghosts. They have long been disliked by Gu Er, and they don't want to see them. The Gu family is now ruled by the third house. Said that the situation is not bad, and I am afraid that the Gu family owner may not dare to hand over the Gu family to Gu De to save others. Dong Boss feels that if the Gu family is handed over to the Gu family's big room, I am afraid that Guyao will not show any affection and take the Gu family. It's ruined. Now there are 3 houses to support it. Anyway, the 3 houses are not to offend Guyao. Now the situation of the Gu family has made some collateral and concubines more active than before. The direct line is probably going to be abolished. The one at the door can come back alive. Boss Dong frowned and said, I heard that there was a 5-colored lotus a while ago, and I only learned about it afterwards. Maybe only those monks who have built the foundation are eligible to participate in this kind of competition. Where can I get this kind of thing? I think the Gu family should also be involved, so I don't know what the outcome will be. Gu Yao and Qi Changjai looked at each other. Could it be that they were fighting for the wounds in the 5-color lotus? Anyway, to wait for Tian Firong, he decided to visit the ancient mansion after dark. Seeing that Gu Yao didn't ask any more questions, Boss Dong withdrew after finishing speaking, and forbid his subordinates to inquire about anything related. It was late at night, the little fat man stayed, and Gu Yao and Qi Changjai left the room. The little fat man had heard a lot about the Gu family during the day, and would no longer have any thoughts about the Gu family, just like the Tian family. I feel that Gu Yao does not need sympathy. Just look at the achievements Gu Yao has achieved so far, and the regrets of the Gu family do not need to be seen as clearly. The little fat man touched Lu Li's head, which came out of his cuff, and quietly waited for the 3 people who went out to return. It was just a matter of demeaning his eyes, and Qi Changjai brought Gu Yao to the top of the ancient mansion. With one thought, the entire ancient mansion fell under the control of Qi Changjai's consciousness. Where does Xiaoyao want to go first? Gu Yao stretched his finger to the following direction, go there first. Okay, Qi Changjai responded and took him down. The 2 of them were hidden, even the one with the highest cultivation base in the Gu family would not be able to detect it. The 2 came to a yard, waved their hands, and the door in front opened, and the 2 entered as if no one else was there. The smell of alcohol and powder mixed together, but they were isolated before they got close to Gu Yao. The man on the bed was Gu Ergu's Hyming, but Gu Yao didn't even want to look at it anymore. He stretched out his hand and flicked it against the air, and the invisible powder dispersed, and then said, let's go, he will be, it doesn't matter to me whether I live or die. Qi Changjai knew what would happen if the powder was sucked, but he didn't think Gu Yao did anything wrong. If Gu Yao didn't want this man to live, he wouldn't let Gu Yao do it, but he did it. Taking the man's life, after all, Gu Yao has an identity barrier. It's better now, when they leave, Gu's Hyming will find out soon after, that his original cultivation will become weaker and weaker, until finally the spiritual power in his Danshan is completely dissipated, and he can no longer absorb any spiritual energy. Reduced to a completely ordinary person, I don't know if this man can continue to live a life of drunken life. The next moment, the 2 came to the top of the other courtyard. Although the room below was surrounded by layers of formations, there were still many flaws under the 2 people's consciousness, and they could easily penetrate into it. The old ancestor, his expression was stunned at this moment, and he was seriously injured. It seems that it is for this old guy who asked for Xiaoling Lu. If this injury can't be cured, this old guy won't have a good time. Let's go and see Patriarch Gu. Gu Yao knew very well that without this foundation-building ancestor, the Gu family would be reduced to a position. Now there are 3 foundation-building cultivators in the Tian family. No, plus brother Tian is 4, Lu Minzu of the Lu family is still expected to build the foundation. It would be difficult. Even if the Tian Lu family had some scruples and did not take action against the Gu family, it would be difficult for them to maintain their current status in the town. Gu Yao doesn't feel much about this old ancestor. The Gu family dislikes him the most. One is Gu Er, and the other is the Gu family master. The attitude of the ancient second determines the cold treatment and bullying that the original body received in the ancient family. Gu family head, he, is not much better than Gu Er. Both the original body and the original body's mother were used by the patriarch of the ancient family to obtain the greatest benefit, but after all the calculations, it was all in vain. The 2 came to the outside of the room where the patriarch Gu was. He hadn't rested at this time. Someone just came to see him. The two stood outside the window and listened. Just because of his status in the Gu family, he has no chance to recognize everyone, let alone the confidant around the head of the family. Homeowner. You're here. Patriarch Gu took out a sealed box and said, send this over there, hand it over to Chenner in person, and tell him that the future of our Gu family depends on him, and let him take the big picture. Practice well for the sake of it. Yes, Patriarch, the subordinates must personally deliver it to young Master Chen. It's just that this man was about to turn around and go out, but he was dizzy for a while and screamed badly in his heart, but he fell down. When he fell, he saw the owner struggling to ask for help, but he didn't know what happened next. Gu Yao walked in with a cold face, stretched out his hand and grabbed it. The box flew out of the previous man's hand, fell into his hand, and directly broke the seal with brute force to open the box, and a fragrance spread out, the lotus seeds of the five-color lotus. Oh, it's a good thing, no wonder you dare to say that Gu Chen can cultivate well, and with the help of this lotus seed, Gu Chen's future can be expected. What's to be expected? Find out the whereabouts of that guy and just abolish him. Chi Changjai disagreed. This old guy has good intentions, and he is not willing to use it for Gu Chen. Obviously you know it's a waste to use it on yourself. Chi Changjai could see that 10 years later, the old guy's cultivation has not increased at all, probably because he used too much mind and calculated everything. The more important effect is to remove impurities in the body and enhance the potential, which is obviously more effective for Gu Chen. It just fell into Gu Yao's hands now, and of course he won't go back. Gu Yao turned his hand and put it in the space, ready to dig upon to plant the lotus seeds. He is also interested in the five-color lotus. He wants to know about the five-color lotus. Exactly what ingredients have an effect on enhancing the potential may be helpful for him to study the transformation potion. After Chi Changjai finished speaking, he stretched out his hand and covered the old guy's head, wanting to know Gu Chen's whereabouts to find the answer by himself. What will he suspect after coming here? Naon is supposed to use his golden core strength to search for the souls of the monks who have not yet established the foundation. As long as you are careful, it will not cause much damage to the other party, but Chi Changjai's actions seem to be a bit rough. Will there be any after effects on the old guy? Wouldn't that be better? Chi Changjai's expression gradually sank, and after a while, he withdrew his hand and left the room with Gu Yao. Gu Yao did not urge him, knowing that Chi Changjai would tell him everything. After leaving the ancient house, Chi Changjai said, this old guy really regards Gu Chen as the trump card of the Gu family. Can you guess who took Gu Chen away? Who? He's definitely not a good person, otherwise he wouldn't have shown up for 10 years. Of course, in 10 years, Gu Yao didn't even think about this person. Yes, when we left Yuanyang town 10 years ago, Gu Chen brought a person to the old guy and said that he wanted to go with that person, and that person was an evil cultivator. He found that Gu Chen's physique was very strong. It is suitable for inheriting his practice, so he took Gu Chen away, and these years, the old guy has been secretly supporting Gu Chen. Gu Chen initially went with that person in the name of revenge on you, but he has been suppressed by the old guy all these years. He should know that he can't deal with you, and he just wants to regard Gu Chen as a whole card of the Gu family. To preserve the ancient family, it is best if Gu Yang can come back. Gu Yang is his favorite descendant. If Gu Yang does not come back, the ancient family will be handed over to Gu Chen. Chi Changjai sneered in his heart, thinking that it would be okay to hide Gu Chen. If Gu Chen still stayed in the Gu family, he and Gu Yao might only look at it a few times before asking, but they put people in the hands of such people to practice evil methods, then don't blame him for being rude, even if there is no such thing as this. The threatening was erased. He could not tolerate such a person who hated Gu Yao to survive. When it was almost dawn, the two master and servant who had fainted in the room woke up. The ancient family head was shocked. After checking his own situation, he hurriedly called someone in and searched the entire ancient house to see what happened during the night. After checking again, The lotus seeds of the two five-color lotus were missing, and Patriarch Gu felt a lot of pain. He wanted to use it on Gu Chen even though he was not willing to take it. He hoped that the Gu family would produce a foundation-building cultivator, but he didn't expect the lotus seeds to disappear and fly. Who is it? Who stole the five-color lotus seeds from the old man? Damn! Is there anything unusual? Gu Patriarch asked the confidant guard. The confidant guard replied tremblingly, Patriarch, everyone was fine at night, and there was no sign of outsiders intruding, except for the Patriarch. This kind of strength can break in and leave so silently. He desperately turned his mind and said, could it be, Boss Jin over there at Bear Head? The big butler just left the Bear's Head, but he didn't talk about success after sending the news back. Boss Jin wanted to exchange lotus seeds for Xiaoling Lu. Of course, the big housekeeper could not agree to it, so the deal was deadlocked. Could it be Boss Jin? Just staring at the lotus seeds of the Gu family, don't ask to pick it up. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 200. Boss Jin? It's not impossible, Patriarch Gu said with a gloomy face. No one would be in a good mood if he was tricked like this, not to mention losing such an important thing. Just to compete for this thing, the ancestor will be seriously injured. Thinking of losing his wife and losing his army, Patriarch Gu almost vomited blood and passed out. Pain in the forehead, Patriarch Gu just thought he was angry, but he didn't expect that someone had manipulated his hands and feet, and his soul had been searched. How could it have no effect at all? He had thought about whether Gu Yao would be when he came back to deal with the Gu family. He was still a little reliant on his guilty conscience. No matter what, Gu Yao had the blood of the Gu family on his body. If he dared to do something, his own cultivation path would be overshadowed. Which one is more important? He believes in Gu Yao. Choose the path that is most beneficial to you. Therefore, indifference to the Gu family is the most likely attitude of Gu Yao, and for this reason, the head of the Gu family kept telling Gu Chen how important he was to the ancient family, so that he should focus on the ancient family, rather than remembering the importance of the ancient family. He wanted to find Gu Yao for revenge someday. At that time, he believed that Gu Yao would destroy the entire Gu family without hesitation. Gu Patriarch still regretted it in the end. He regretted that because of his choice, he lost the Gu Patriarch's great way to heaven in his hands. This was the root cause of his lack of progress in cultivation for many years. But he didn't think about it. If everything went backwards, according to his way of doing things and the temperament of the ancient too, Gu Yao, who had 4 spiritual roots and no mother's protection, would still be the one who was abandoned by all of them. Patriarch Gu not only checked in his own house, but also secretly checked the town to see if there were any suspicious people who came to Yuanyang town in the past 2 days. Take Gu Yao as a threat. He didn't know that when the people of the Gu family were secretly investigating, Gu Yao and several people had already left Yuanyang town, and they did not pass through the town entrance. Doesn't work much. The group of them left on the flying instrument. Tian Firong contacted Gu Yao and others before dawn and then reunited. He did not show up in the Tian family, only met with Tian's father and Tian family master, leaving him alone. Some of the resources in the collection are mostly obtained from adventures, and they are also obtained from the market by chance. These things will not be too conspicuous in the hands of the Tian family. On the contrary, 2 good things are easily exposed and bring them to the Tian family. Disaster. Tian Firong didn't go to see Tian's mother. He didn't hold any resentment, but he couldn't have a relationship with her anymore. It was better to see each other than to see each other. Tian's father and Tian's family were already guilty of this, so how could they be in front of him? When it comes to Tian Mu, everyone tacitly avoided it. Boss Dong only brought one of his subordinates, and he handed over most of the things in his hands before leaving, worried that if he could not come back, the subordinates would have food to make ends meet. Among the few people, Boss Dong is most familiar with Tian Firong, the young master of the Tian family, but now he has changed so much that Boss Dong can even feel a dangerous aura from him. Tian Er Xiao knows how many people in Yuanyang town are envious of Er Xiao. Boss Dong saw that Tian Er Xiao was very friendly to him, so he dared to joke, thinking that it is no wonder that these people can climb so much Gao. This character alone is not comparable to Gu Yang back then. Gu Yang believed himself to be a genius in Yuanyang town, and after he got the token to go to Changxianmen, he put on a gesture of disdain for being in the company of you and others. It's really funny to think about it now. He thinks that even if Gu Yang went to Changxianmen, with this temperament, it is difficult to stand out. Tian Firong touched his chin and smiled, "Don't joke about Boss Dong. Speaking of which, Boss Dong is also the #1 person in Yuanyang town. When Gu Yao and I hadn't left Yuanyang town, I heard about Dong Boss has a lot of deeds." Boss Dong laughed dryly, and when he got his idea in front of the two of them, he began to laugh generously. Without Boss Dong to lead the way, Gu Yao and the others really had to spend a lot of time searching. 2 days later, when the chief butler of the Gu family finally returned to the Gu family to report the situation, Gu Yao and his party also arrived at the place they were looking for, overlooking from the sky. The topography is very consistent with what is drawn on the map, and after arriving here, the animal skin reacted again, as if it wanted to fly out of Gu Yao's hands. Seeing this situation, Boss Dong secretly said that fortunately, he didn't have any bad thoughts. Now his strength is very different from Gu Yao and others. The flying instrument slowly descended. Gu Yao frowned and said, "Not only is spiritual energy scarce here, but also the vitality is very weak. It doesn't seem to be formed naturally, but it is artificial." Chi Changjai nodded. He had not only heard of such a situation before, but also encountered one. This should be to take away the spiritual energy and vitality, and use it to maintain the operation of the formation somewhere. Xiaoao, put the animal skins away. Let it out and it should lead us to the entrance. Looking at it from above, there is no trace of the formation at all. It is likely to be hidden underground. It is much more difficult to find it by yourself. Why is it so troublesome to have a shortcut? Boss Dong and his subordinate Ding Dali were dumbfounded. This place is actually quite far from Yuanyang town. The speed of flying instruments is much faster than that of horned horses. Days and nights, if they hadn't lived here for too long, how would they pay attention to such a place? Because as Gu Yao and the others said, the vitality here is also weak. Even if the common people want to grow food, they can't grow much, so even ordinary people are unwilling to live here, so it is desolate. But who would have thought that this was caused by man-made the day after tomorrow? Gu Yao released the restraint of the animal skin, and the animal skin flew out immediately. The pedestrian followed behind. After arriving at the place, Shanpi stopped, but there was no place related to the entrance at all, just a very magnanimous flat ground. But Gu Yao and Chi Changjai looked at the floating piece curiously. Animal hides on the ground. Suddenly, the lines on the animal skin flowed and released light. The light shone on the ground below, and seemed to outline a formation on the ground. Gradually, there were fluctuations in the depths of the ground. The rays of light penetrated from the ground, echoing the animal skin above, and then appeared in the rays of light on the ground, a bottomless black hole. "Go, that's the entrance." Gu Yao and Chi Changjai took the lead and jumped into the black hole, and the little fat man and Tian Firong followed without hesitation. "Let's go too." Boss Dong didn't expect to see such a strange face at all. Even if he jumped in and encountered invincible danger, it was worth the trip, so he greeted Ding Dali and followed. Just as the two of them jumped in, the black hole disappeared, the light also dissipated into the surrounding air, and the good skin that was floating in the air disappeared. Maybe not long after, somewhere, there will be 2 worn-out animal skins, which make people think that they are treasure maps, which are treasured and stored in a precious place, and they are exhausted, or they may be scraps of old skins. And throw it aside. The so-called black hole is just a transmission portal constructed by animal skins and somewhere underground, rather than a real existence. Gu Yao could feel Qi Changjai's arm around his waist and the heat coming from his arm, which made his cheeks feel a little warmer, but he didn't have time to think about it. The black hole disappeared, and they also appeared in an underground space. The sudden disappearance of the force caused them to fall down, but they controlled their bodies before they fell to the ground. In the end, Boss Dong and Ding Dali unfortunately fell to the ground. The two quickly got up and smiled apologetically at Tian Firong and the little fat man. They almost bumped into the two of them. There is actually aura here, which is a little thicker than that in our Yuanyang town, Boss Dong said in surprise. So the aura that disappeared outside gathered here? And although it is underground, the air here is fresh, and there are many trees and flowers growing around. Boss Dong even thinks that if possible, he would rather move here to live. It is much better than the conditions in Yuanyang town. If he has been here, maybe he will have the opportunity to try to build a foundation. But he didn't dare to say this in his heart. After all, he can't be the master here now. The Zenpi had disappeared, as if it had completed its mission, but after coming here, Gu Yao pressed his heart, and he sensed a familiar aura. Something was calling him. Xiaoao, Qi Changjai discovered his situation immediately. Gu Yao's face appeared in front of his eyes for some unknown reason. He shook his head and said, "Maybe my uncle, whose whereabouts are unknown, will find clues here." "Your uncle," Tian Firong and Boss Dong said in surprise at the same time, and the little fat man didn't know about Gu Yao's situation. Tian Firong knew that Gu Yao had such an uncle, but he never mentioned it in front of Gu Yao, because he felt that Gu Yao's uncle was likely to be unpredictable. Otherwise, why did he not appear for so many years, or Gu Yao would also be in the Gu family. You won't end up in that situation. But I didn't expect that the mysterious uncle of Gu Yao would have a connection here. Then this uncle has a lot of history. Thinking about it this way, the Gu family is really a sinner. One after another plugins were tossed away by themselves. Yeah, my uncle, Gu Yao sighed. When I left Gu's house, I received a message from my uncle, and I haven't heard anything since. I didn't expect to be so close. It wasn't that he didn't think about looking for his uncle's whereabouts when he was outside, but he had never heard any news related to it, so he could only keep it in his heart, but because of this, he had some guesses. But it is not on the Tianlin continent, so the way to leave the Tianlin continent is not only the teleportation array in Shifang City.